Um, Ladies and gentlemen, I first want to start with one statement. I was asked by the organizers to provide you this presentation on a solution that we had to solve an issue that has a lot of public and also societal attention catched and is still catching. There is a selection bias. This is a positive and successful project. Please be aware of that, because we have also examples where we learned the lesson: die early and cheap. So there is no guarantee. This here has ended up in 2 plants in Ludwigshafen with a nameplate capacity of 200,000 annual tons per year. We have competitors, so essentially there are now 500,000 metric tons in the market. And this is, as I said, a successful project, but there are also unsuccessful projects. Keep that in mind. So 20 years ago, there was the big disaster on plasticizers in toys. Big issue, media attention. We brought it because I'm also chairing the scientific working group of European plasticizers, the plasticizer producers organization in Brussels. We brought it into the media, in TV and wherever. The Brussels teether is the standing word here. And the issue was then ended in November by a complete ban of these plasticizers in toys that can be mouthed by children. It was published in November, active 10 days after publication, and was then prolonged, I think, roughly 20 times, because they realized that the product safety emergency regulation was not good enough, so they had to change that also. In the meantime, it's in REACH Annex 17 under the restrictions. It's clearly regulated. So, when you go back, just on German TV, some days ago, there was a journalist making the big experiment with himself. He volunteered to get plasticizer free. Fantastic idea. He ate only unpacked food and all this stuff. Well, it took him, I think, several weeks. If he would have come to me, I would have said, okay, 6 hours are enough. Because if you starve for 6 hours, all is out in the urine. So, too much effort. Plasticizer is very often linked to phthalates. And phthalates in general are perceived, unfortunately, as a problem. We have in this plasticizer topics, of course, some specifics which are related to the fact that, think about a toy, it might be that 50% of this article on a weight basis is the plasticizer. So it's a sort of additive that is very specific because a huge amount of the product is consisting of the plasticizer. It can even be that you have much more in a bladder catheter in the top, but if you get it applied, you will be happy on each % more of the plasticizer that is in there. The plasticizers are not covalently bound to the PVC. They show leaching and migration. Mouthing is a big issue. And there is a big dispute, or was a big dispute, on mouthing time, whether the child is mouthing it for 1 hour, 30 minutes, or several hours. So this gives you a disaster in the risk assessment. And it's also a perfect target for scaremongering by NGOs and media. It has the potential to impact your business, but also your reputation as a company. And so, well, we thought at that time about a solution opposite to some other solution providers. We were going the tough way. We had a team working. I was at that time involved as the toxicologist. And we wanted to avoid that we end up in a regrettable substitution. So that you bring or promote a product that is at the end not keeping what you promise. So you need for such research projects huge teams. And I must really say you need all of the disciplines. Everybody counts. And the leadership task is to form the team and to get the team working and to get the team the freedom to operate, to protect also the team against internal, let's say, boundaries. And sometimes, I also have to mention that here, sometimes it's easier to say sorry than to ask for permission. Good. So, if you think about a toy, which is from plastics, you can go to another plastics material. Fantastic idea. However, do you know all about the advantages, disadvantages of this material? Second, you have customers. Customers have hardware. And this did cost them in the past a lot of money. Some have invested and some want to keep their hardware because it costs a fortune. So we thought, okay, the better idea probably is that we try to find a plasticizer molecule that solves the issue. By that, we could get to our customers and the customers of our customers a good solution that prevented them from getting attacked and saves them a lot of money. Because when you always are in the defense mode, it's not a funny thing to do. Second, the idea was to do it with own resources. So we needed the raw material that is available. We needed to have it done in own facilities with production costs under control and the resources. Okay, what did we do first? Well, there was a brainstorming about what can be used as a plasticizer. Then you have teams working on it, coming up with all ideas, and there is no idea that is not valid. Anything that could act as a plasticizer is put into one big basket. Then there was a technical screening. The candidates are isolated then, and the most promising candidates went into a first check. And, well, with some experience, you look to the substance and says, probably second priority. And then you have a close selection, and with that close selection, you start the testing. First of all, screening tests. To the screening tests, I'm coming soon, but then you have also to do a right substance characterization that you know what you are dealing with. This is something that is very often not done properly in academic studies. They even don't know what they test. Then, of course, you need to satisfy the endpoints. I will show that in the next slide. But this is what is then the task. EU REACH. And as you can see, the principle is no data, no market. And the issue is that you start here, production above 1 ton per year in Annex 7. And the more you produce, the more data you have to provide. You can go until 28-day study. OECD 407 costs you 150,000 euros overall. But the problem then is to get into the nice applications, you need to have more at earlier time points. And now, how do you do the screening? You need to understand and you need to know what is the problem with the phthalates. So, a problem with the phthalates is there is a specific active cluster between 3,6 and 3C3 in the longest linear chain. And these are the ones that show toxicity to reproduction by testicular toxicity and at higher dose levels teratogenicity, which means malformations. So the candidates, a very small number of candidates, were then treated very badly by gavage. The animals got 1,000 milligram per kilogram body weight, and this is with a reduced animal number. This was a test down or up. Those, and only one survived, went then in the regulatory testing, complete program. This is a little bit the situation. You started with the critical phthalates that have been used in toys. We got rid of the smiley by the change of the regulation because this guy disappeared and the imploding man was then implemented under GHS and CLP in the EU. And then there was a long way to get to the new plasticizer. So then you have it in the lab. You can do the production of more than 1 ton, and then you have to send samples out to customers under non-disclosure agreements. The customers then have a lot of questions, and well, for a customer, and a lot of them are small and medium-sized companies. Some of the big brand holders have different requests, but well, for them it costs also money, so you have to convince them to cooperate. And we were lucky to find in key industries customers that were seeing the problem and that were prepared to work with us in the big team to solve the specific issues. For example, food contact for enteral nutrition in intensive care, or some others, blood containers, blood bags, medical devices. And for all of these, we had customer projects, dedicated customer projects, to really see what the customer needs. And that was one of the major success factors. Then your competitor will see that something is happening. He runs to your customers and tells them, this is a shitty product, this is not really tested enough, it's not independently evaluated, it's not established in the whole marketing crap. Good. Then you have also some NGOs. They jump in and say, oh, it's only a new plasticizer. It has the same disadvantage as the others. It's not fully tested. And, oh, by the way, all the testing has been done by the producer. Standard answer to this is then go to Brussels and tell them that they should change REACH. Because for this compound we had regulatory testing costs of, in the meantime, 8 million euros. And then you will also get the attention of some academic researchers, which can sometimes be really nice, sometimes a pain, especially if these are paid by your competitors and come with, let's say, a little bit biased science, or let's say, yeah, they do their job. The problem here is when we do regulatory testing, we do it under OECD guidelines, under good laboratory practice. No university is able to provide you a GLP study because they don't have the certificate. Second, we have to have educated and trained staff. In the university, based on the reforms, we now have bachelor students doing it the first time. They have no experience, they have no historical control data, and very often they have a time problem because the bachelor has to write up his thesis within a certain time and he has to get a result. So sometimes this ends then up in posters or in, let's say, publications which unfortunately are not, very good. Let me phrase it this way. So, second, we have in the meantime a change of the business models from some of the journals. You get paid publications without peer review. This is also not very good. Okay, at the end you should then avoid to get into an emotional, non-targeted discussion, which is my science, your science, because it doesn't help your product. Only one example here where we did the whole story. We did a publication to invalidate what has been published, also peer-reviewed, also published. In the meantime, this product has been evaluated independently by all the competent authorities that you can see here. And when I then get an academic publication stating that nothing is known about that substance, I come with that list and say, are you crazy? We do not only criticize, we are also part of the scientific community. We publish. I'm doing also a lot of reviews for the journals. So we are part of the academic community, and I think that is very important to understand the issues, because you have to be part of the system to get criticized, yes, and when the reviewer sends you a nasty comment, okay, you have to live with it. That's part of the story. Good. Then one last thing. Be very cautious if we invite you to a nice breakfast. It can be that you are a volunteer for the human biomonitoring studies. We were a pilot for the VCI UBA program. Our intention was to see what is the plasticizer exposure really. So for this, we have built up a method to detect the exposure of the general public. How do you do that? You take them volunteers, they get 50 milligrams of plasticizer for a breakfast, and then you measure blood and urine for the next day. And by that you know the fraction of plasticizer coming as which metabolite into urine. And by that we can do a back calculation when we measure urine concentrations and get the real exposure. Integrated over all paths of all routes of exposure. And this gives you a very, very good example and very good database. And so you can really calculate the risk. However, this is just how it works. You see, these plasticizers are eliminated very, very quickly. Within 6 to 12 hours, all is out of the body. But there are some people called environmental epidemiologists. They identified that as a perfect tool because the data are publicly available either by US Center for Disease Control, NHANES, or by the German UBA. And by that we prove that traces of our material, a man-made material, are detectable in the human body because they are excreted. For sure, it's used in food contact, it's used in blood bags, it's used in toys, so this is the normal result. These people, they have only one target. They want to get money. And how do you get money? You need to make a problem. So then you go out and create a problem where you can say, oh, children are much higher exposed as adults. The problem is these children are not as much higher exposed because based on their small size, damned, their body weight is much lower, their body surface is in the relation much higher, and they eat for their body weight much more than an adult. It's normal. And we can show by that that's no risk. Also, some nice things are these in silico modeling stuff, where you see it in color and three-dimensional, that you could create a problem. It's all something that you have to do to defend your product, even if it's 10 or 20 years in the market. So product development and innovation is a never-ending story. Conclusion, innovation is absolutely a must for the chemical industry, but also for society. Is unfortunately hard work and depends on multiple factors. You need big teams, and everybody counts. Everybody really counts. And you have to have a good team working together as a team. Then, yeah, you have to have the right product, and you need some fortune. Because if you have the nicest product and the market doesn't accept it, sorry. And then the really nasty conclusion, you can provide a platform, you can provide the framework and the resources and the atmosphere, but whether you are successful is unpredictable. But I think it's our task really to provide the teams with sufficient budget, resources, and this is our only chance. And by that, I'm going to end.
Thank you very much.